SimilarWeb just released their official list of the top YouTube searches worldwide, and it's exactly what you'd expect at first. MrBeast, NBA, music, and other global staples. But then, one name jumps off the page. Hard to say Asmongold, 7.28 million monthly searches. Let that sink in. A guy who streams in a dimly lit room, surrounded by half-empty water bottles, is now more searched than Kendrick Lamar, Fortnite, even the entire NFL. This isn't just impressive, this is seismic, because Asmongold isn't just another YouTuber. He's become something else entirely, a cultural mirror, a media critic, a digital town hall host who somehow became the voice of reason during one of the most chaotic times in modern history. And if you're wondering how the hell that happened, well, buckle up. Because this story isn't just about a Twitch streamer going viral. It's about how one man turned long-winded rants and Reddit reactions into a replacement for the mainstream news. And we need to talk about it. Let's rewind to late 2024, post-US election. America had just gone through one of the most bitter, tribal, and algorithmically weaponized elections in modern history. Cable news was a battlefield. Social media was a war zone. Everyone had an opinion, and nobody knew what to believe anymore. Not a politician, not a journalist, just a gamer, reacting live. But the difference? He wasn't trying to spin anything. He wasn't shoving ideology down anyone's throat. He'd pull up articles, read through the clickbait headlines, pause and say what half the internet was thinking. Wait, this is just stupid.
So when you compare Trump against himself,
he's gaining power.
He's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump has...
I think it's really crazy whenever you take a step back and you think about the fact that this dude lost the election, staged an insurrection on the Capitol, repudiated by everyone in the media, taken off every social media platform, sent into exile, all of his supporters jailed indefinitely, and in 4 years, he came back and he's the president again. That's impressive.
And in a media landscape built on outrage and moral panic, that pause, that moment of honest common sense skepticism was exactly what people were looking for. It wasn't polished, it wasn't always pretty, but it felt real. And that's when the shift began. But Asmongold's rise didn't happen in a vacuum. It exploded into the mainstream during one of the most viral feuds in streamer history. Asmongold versus Hassanabi.
Like, number one, kidnapping civilian ships full of Filipinos and holding them hostage, this is not a moral action.
A lot of people lack critical thinking skills, and when they get pushback on these ideas they're repeating, then...
You see they laughing at me. You heard them, they scream at me. They bully me.
Dude, it's not bullying. If people are giving you sound advice because they want to make sure you don't sound like an absolute moron on TV.
Two titans of Twitch, two loud voices with radically different views. And when the debates kicked off, it wasn't just content, it was a culture war in real time. One major flashpoint was around streamer income and capitalist sponsorship, particularly after Hassan faced criticism for purchasing a multi-million-dollar home.
Commentator Hassan Piker has purchased himself a nearly $3 million home.
If you're going to market yourself as a socialist, you can't go and buy a $3 million house. It's immoral and it's disgusting.
For a socialist, you seem to be spending large, my friend. There are a lot of places that are not in West Hollywood that don't cost $2.7 million.
Asmongold criticized what he saw as ideological inconsistency. If you talk about socialism but live like Jeff Bezos, people are going to ask questions.
You're not going to jail. Your family's rich, you're fine, you're not going. Don't worry about it. Rich people don't go to jail.
The debates were messy, meme-worthy, and absolutely magnetic. They argued over Twitch bans, over platform ethics, over wealth in leftist circles. And each clip that dropped only pushed Asmongold further into the spotlight. Because here's the truth, and while Hassan played to his base, Asmongold was winning hearts and minds. Not with ideology, but with common sense. And that was powerful. There's this moment that I think perfectly explains Asmongold's rise. He's on stream, reacting to a New York Times piece about some political drama, and after reading a few paragraphs, he just laughs. They're not trying to tell you the news. They're trying to tell you how to feel. Boom. Right there. That's it. That's why millions are ditching CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and clicking on Asmongold instead. Because when the news feels like propaganda, when everyone's selling something, when politicians sound like robots and influencers sound like PR machines, you start looking for someone who just talks like a person. Asmongold doesn't pretend to be an expert, but he reads the headlines, breaks them down with basic logic, and reacts like you or I might, except, way funnier.
One assassination attempt, like a legit one, like literally almost shot him. The second one, they caught the guy. 2 assassination attempts, like fucking 30-something felonies. They were going to put this guy in jail forever. And the only way he could get out of going to jail was by winning the presidency. And he did. That is a crazy fucking story.
And in 2025, that's what people crave. Not trust in institutions, trust in instinct. And Asmongold, he's become the proxy for that instinct. Let's talk about the content loop. Asmongold's videos are dangerously bingeable. You click on one, maybe a 12-minute rant about Baldur's Gate 3 microtransactions, and suddenly it's 3 a.m., and you're 6 videos deep into a breakdown of corporate corruption in gaming, the ethics of AI art, and why some Twitch streamers are destroying their own careers.
Why was the first response to defend the current state of AAA gaming as opposed to saying...
Because they're working in AAA gaming, and they are making the shit games that people don't like. So whenever somebody makes a shit game, or sorry, makes a game that people do like, they get defensive because whenever you compare it to their game looks bad.
It's not just his takes, it's the pacing, the unpredictability, the fact that you have no idea if the next sentence is going to be a deep philosophical insight or a completely unhinged comparison to Warcraft patch notes from 2006. He'll go from clowning on a viral TikTok to making a surprisingly profound point about parasocial relationships and digital loneliness.
Parasocial relationships are the relationship that somebody has with usually some sort of public figure that is often one-sided. So for example, it's a relationship that you have with a popular music artist. It's the relationship you have with a movie star.
That whiplash is what makes it addicting, because no matter how weird or wild things get online, Asmongold makes it make sense. He brings you back to earth, even while diving into the absurdity. This is the part that gets deeper than content. Asmongold has accidentally, or maybe inevitably, become the voice of reason in a world that feels like it's spiraling into insanity. He'll look at the latest corporate apology for AI overreach and say, they're lying. He'll look at a Twitch ban and say, this is performative. He'll look at a social movement and say, they lost the plot. We're watching the fall of common sense in real time.
6 people got killed because of the hurricane because the company wanted everybody to come into work that day.
Due to death threats against me and my family.
So he starts off the video where he is talking about 6 people that got killed at his company, making you try to feel sorry about him. There's a death threat. You want people to feel bad about you for the death threats? Well, imagine if they're gonna feel bad about the death threats, think about how bad they'd feel about the actual deaths.
And sure, not everyone agrees with him, but most people aren't watching for agreement. They're watching for clarity. In a landscape where content is either corporate, hysterical, or trying too hard to be positive, Asmongold cuts through the noise like a buzzsaw. He calls out both sides, he laughs at the madness, and he never pretends to be above the fray, because he is in the fray. He's part of the internet's bloodstream, and that makes his takes feel earned. He's not preaching, he's surviving the chaos with us. So let's bring it back to the stat. 8 on YouTube's most searched terms, Asmongold shackles all 7.28 million monthly searches. This isn't a fluke, this is a reflection. It reflects the collapse of traditional trust in institutions. It reflects the hunger for unscripted voices who speak plainly. It reflects how people are choosing commentary over curation, analysis over aesthetic, and more than anything, it reflects how one streamer sitting in a room that looks like it was hit by a nerdy hurricane has become the voice of the digital generation. I never thought we'd get here, that a guy whose main diet is Monster Energy and DoorDash would replace the nightly news for millions of people. That someone with no script, no studio, and no agenda would become more influential than journalists who spent decades climbing the ladder. But here we are. And honestly, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe the world doesn't need more polished anchors reading from teleprompters. Maybe it needs a dude in a hoodie scrolling Reddit saying, this is Bull's Rouse. Let me tell you why. Because sometimes that's the only voice that actually cuts through the noise. So whether you're here for the drama, the breakdowns, the chaos, or just the raw commentary, one thing is clear. Asmongold didn't just go viral. He became the sanity check in an insane world. And the algorithm, it noticed.